Top 10 Wars and Conflicts of the 21st Century. The 21st century has seen many conflicts and unrests erupting at various places for various reasons. It has resulted in widespread destruction and terrible loss of human lives. Let's have a look at the top 10 tragedies of this century. 10. First Ivorian War, 2002 to 2007. The First Ivorian Civil War was a conflict in Ivory Coast between rebel-held Muslim North and a government-held Christian South. Many efforts to calm the same has failed over the years, and that has resulted in casualty numbers touching 2,000 lives and political instability. 9. Houthi insurgency in Yemen, 2004 till 2015. The Houthi insurgency in Yemen is a sectarian military rebellion that began in northern Yemen and has since escalated into a full-scale civil war, with a major Saudi-led foreign intervention. This 10-year-long conflict has resulted in around 3,000 killed, 8,000 wounded, and about 3 lakhs displaced. 8. Boko Haram insurgency, 2009 till present. The Boko Haram insurgency began in 2009. Against the government of Nigeria, the jihadist rebel group Boko Haram started this armed rebellion. This soon spread to Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, thus becoming a major regional conflict. Around 15,000 people have been killed, and 1 million have been displaced in this conflict. 7. Libyan Civil War, 2011. The First Libyan Civil War, also referred to as the Libyan Revolution, was an armed conflict in 2011 in the North African country of Libya, fought between forces loyal to Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and those seeking to oust his government. Throughout the conflict, the rebels rejected Gaddafi's government offer for ceasefire. In the following 8-month-long conflict, around 20,000 people were killed and around 5,000 went missing, which finally ended with the death of Gaddafi and eventual overthrow of his regime. 6. War in Somalia, 2006 till 2009. The war in Somalia was an armed conflict involving largely Ethiopian and Somali Transitional Federal Government (TFG) forces and Somali troops from Puntland versus the Somali Islamist umbrella group, the Islamist Court Union (ICU), and other affiliated militias for control of the country. The war officially began shortly before July 20, 2006, when U.S.-backed Ethiopian troops invaded Somalia to prop up the Transitional Federal Government forces in Baidoa. And soon after Ethiopian intervention, an armed conflict ensued, which continued for 3 years. During this period, around 16,000 civilians had been killed, 29,000 wounded, and more than 1.9 million displaced. 5. South Sudanese Civil War, 2013 till present. The South Sudanese Civil War is an ongoing conflict in South Sudan between forces of government and opposition forces. It soon escalated into a widespread ethnic conflict between Dinka and Nuer elements, and the situation worsened after it spread out into the civilian areas, leaving more than 50,000 dead and 1.8 million displaced. Still caught up in the power struggle, this civil war is far from over. 4. War in Northwest Pakistan, 2004, ongoing. The war in Northwest Pakistan is an armed conflict involving the state of Pakistan and armed militant groups. The armed conflict began in 2004 with the Pakistan Army's search for Al-Qaeda fighters in Pakistan's mountainous Waziristan area, in the federally administered tribal areas. It soon escalated into armed resistance by Central Asian militant groups. So far, this bloody war has resulted in the loss of lives of more than 50,000 civilians, with more than 3.4 million displaced from the region over a decade. 3. War in Afghanistan, 2001 till 2014. The war in Afghanistan is the period in which the United States invaded Afghanistan after the September 11 attacks. Apart from close allies, NATO later joined in the offensive to dismantle Al-Qaeda and remove Taliban from power. It resulted in the longest war in U.S. history, with casualty figures of 2 lakh Afghans, with 50,000 U.S. and Allied forces meeting violent deaths. 2. Iraq War, 2003 till 2011. The Iraq War was a prolonged armed conflict that began with the 2003 invasion of Iraq, led by the United States. The invasion toppled the government of Saddam Hussein. However, the conflict continued for much of the next decade, as an insurgency emerged to oppose the occupying forces and the post-invasion Iraqi government. Within the first 3 to 4 years of conflict, an estimated 1.51 lakhs to 6 lakhs or more Iraqis were killed. United States officially withdrew from the country in 2011, but became re-involved in 2014 at the head of a new coalition. The insurgency and many dimensions of the civil armed conflict continued. An estimated 5 lakh Iraqis died in this conflict until 2011. 1. Syrian Civil War 2011 ongoing. The Syrian Civil War is an international armed conflict taking place in Syria, starting off as Arab Spring protests against President Bashar al-Assad's government. The conflict slowly took the form of armed rebellion. The following period saw the rise of the notorious ISIS group, which resulted in widespread destruction and gross human rights violations. The bloody war resulted in deaths of around 2.20 lakh people. Around 1.3 lakhs have been captured or have gone missing. Over 7 million were internally displaced, and 4 million became refugees. The Syrian Civil War has been unparalleled in terms of its horror. Rather than being a civil war, it has become an international crisis. Its violent repercussions can be witnessed not only in the real world, but also in the proxy war across the virtual world. This is indeed the most horrific war of the 21st century.